All right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app. Your home smart speaker up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, Frankie Corrado, Jamie Noodles, McLennan. What a Friday afternoon we have in store for you.
Wow, here we go.
A Friday afternoon.
Al's brother producing the show today. You guys got picks. We got goalie stuff to talk about. The Sens blew another lead.
Wow.
Whew.
Wow.
Lots going on.
What a trip you were just on, Noodles. What the hell was that?
I am the kiss of death. I really feel like I am because that's a 6 spot, and I called all of them.
Yeah.
Because it started with the Carolina game in Ottawa before I went on the 5-game road trip with them. And there was some good hockey. There was some teams digging out of – it was almost like – and I was said off air to me as a tongue-in-cheek comment by one of the cameramen. It was like whatever – was ailing a team, the Senators fixed.
Yeah.
And, you look at Carolina, you look at St. Louis.
Right.
Like, it just, and then we talked about it the other day on Wednesday. Like, the March of Death was Vegas. What was it? The 3 team, Dallas, Vegas and Colorado.
And Colorado. Yeah. It's just, that is as tough as it gets in the NHL right now. Yeah. They still had an opportunity in all those games. Like, they had the lead, I believe, in every game.
All of them.
It didn't matter.
Not to mention a 3-0 lead in Arizona.
Right, of course.
The 3-pack.
Yeah.
It was.
Why not?
You could feel it, though. So, I will say this. In watching almost every team live this year so far, like, Colorado's a serious team. Like, it was early on, it was ugly. Like, that Korpisalo made 8 or 9 unbelievable saves in the first period, or that was a 6-2, like that was 6-2 in the first type of thing.
Right.
And then, Colorado took over and kind of squeezed as the game went on. And McKinnon just put a clinic on. Like, this guy is,
he looked a little grumpy last night, Noodles. Like, even the way, like, that power play goal, he shoots the puck like he's angry at it. He skates up the puck like up the ice like he's angry at the ice for being there. I don't know. There was, and especially with the comments, Devon Taves the other day, you knew the Sens were going to be in tough because Colorado, with the way those guys kind of run their operation, they hold everyone accountable, and sure enough, that's the effort you get where it's guns a-blazing right off the block.
Yeah. Well, so this is a segue into what Columbus should be thinking tomorrow night. But I'm not sure they will because Devon Taves the other day, famously it went viral, just carved his team. And I think in large part because of who they lost to. They lost to Chicago, right? You lose to Chicago right now, that's just embarrassing. Like, real deal Holyfield teams in the National Hockey League, they lose to Chicago. They're like, this is unacceptable. The Leafs, meanwhile, Buffalo is not Chicago, but they're not far from it. They've really struggled this year. And the Leafs got their doors blown off last night in what was a truly horrendous effort from top to bottom. And it was awful. And even
I couldn't believe it.
I
was
really
watching it. I was in disbelief.
It was really shocking to watch. And what I would like to believe, because it is a one-off, before we get into everything that happened and everything that is worthy of being said about that team last night, they have not been crushed like that at any point this year. They're in every single game, more or less. They were being crushed by Columbus, but they stormed back, and we know what happened in the third last week. But you would think that the Columbus Blue Jackets, should be sitting there tomorrow night saying, we're in big trouble.
Yeah.
Like, we're in serious trouble. And if they're not, like, if the Leafs do not show up guns a-blazing tomorrow, then we've really got a conversation on our hands because this team's always trying to change their reputation, always trying to prove that they're a little bit different. And when they play bad teams, they stink. Like, they were awful last night.
But I got to be honest, and we're going to get into it extensively today. The first goal of the game was one of the worst I've seen all year long.
Ever. One of the worst goals in NHL history.
I was in okay, so now listen, credit what's the kid's name? Because he's a monster of a player. Jordan Greenway. Yeah. Because he runs Robertson over in the defensive zone and then goes the other way. But that's a flick shot where he just thrown it towards net, kind of. I think it's off the rush. Hey, let's get it to the net. Let's see if we can get down there for a rebound. And it went in. It was almost like Samsonov wasn't ready for it. Yeah. I don't know what happened on that play, but it was just it was to start the game. That set the tone right there. It's like, hey, this is what you're getting tonight in net, and it didn't get much better. The Tage Thompson goal too. He just powers through the glove, but the glove that reminded. Remember when Jack Campbell was having glove issues? Was that last year?
It was like he had a new glove, and when you get the new glove, you can't close it or something. Like he had that going for him. Hayes, you said it's a one-off. It's a one-off in the sense that the team is not going to get the doors blown off them like that more often. Yeah. But it's not a one-off for Samsonov at this point.
No, it's not. You're right.
We've seen that way too many times this year. There's a large enough sample size, and it's not something that's just happened recently. Go back to training camp. Go back to the first week of the season. Like, this has been a consistent theme with him the whole season long, and now he's had ample opportunity to try and find his game in the NHL. I said my piece last night on SportsCenter and with Jay. Like, I don't know how you can put him back in an NHL net at this point.
No, you can't. I think it's very clear. Like, this is why you have the amount of investment that this team does. They invest in every single department, more than maybe any other team in the league. This is why you have a goaltending department that has 5 people in it. This is why you have sports science. Because they got to work on this guy. But I think what they need to do first and foremost is be very blunt and say you're not playing again until you can prove to us before you get out there that you're in a better headspace. There cannot be trial and error in the NHL, and that's why I think one thing led to the next last night. I blame Sheldon Keefe for that last night in large part. Obviously, Samsonov was awful. He's a professional. He's got to be better. The team in front of him was terrible. Yeah, didn't matter who was playing in net last night. They were awful, and they were going to get smoked. But I said this time yesterday, there was no excuse for him playing. None. Samsonov should not have played last night. And the idea that in the NHL you're just going to say, wow, we got to play him, is such a horrible message to send. Because what I believe that sent last night was, we don't take the Buffalo Sabres seriously. We don't. They're a team we can do a little trial and error here, little test pattern. We're going to give Sammy a chance. And I don't believe he starts last night if that game's in Boston, that game's against the Rangers, that game's in Vegas. And I think you put him in, you send off a vibe like, I guess we got to play him. We got to put him in there. And he gives up one of the worst goals you'll ever see in your life. And then I think the team just said, we're done. Like, we're screwed. And that's not it shouldn't happen. It should not happen. But they got up off the mat for him last week. They played that card last week where he gave up 5. 3 of them were awful goals. Again, they didn't play well. But they stormed back in the third against Columbus. I think the team just looked at it and said, we can't do that again. Like, it's not going to happen. Well, so keep putting him in, him playing the way he played, and then the players are way down my list in terms of being an issue at this point.
Well, you're right, because it is a one-off. I believe you're not going to lose 9-3. It's everyone stunk. You're right, to a man. Mm-hmm. But I was in looking at it, even at 6-3, 5-3, 6-3. I was like, there's a chance they can come back. Like that in the back of my mind, I kind of was like, okay. Now our game was starting, so I had it off to the side. But I was like, okay. It's 6-3, but we've seen this act before because they're a team that kind of wades into the game and wades out. They've been able to do it. They've been, relatively, they've gotten a bunch of points this year.
Yeah.
They've been in games where it's like, okay, we'll come back. We're down 4-1. Yeah, we'll win 5-4, 6-5 and over. And I even at 6-3, I'm like, they could still kind of get back into this game. But it was too dead in the water. Like, Buffalo kept squeezing. Yeah. Everything they were throwing at the net just went in. It was one of those nights. And everyone has it. Everyone has a stinker. It's how you respond. But I am more concerned than having been there and seeing what Samsonov had to say. Like, he's fragile. Like,
I feel he's in a dark spot, man.
It's between the ears, man.
I feel for him.
He's not in a good spot. And you know what, Hayes? I can almost reason with it from Keefe's point of view, maybe a little more than you can, just because you're going into the holiday break here. You have 2 games, and you're going to give one to Samsonov, and you're going to kind of know exactly where he's at. Although you should already know.
Before, Frankie.
You should. Yes, I agree. You should already know where he's at. But I think now the decision has been made. And at some point this year, like, who knows if we see Samsonov again. But if there's a different goalie that comes up, you're going to be rolling the dice playing that test game, just like you played last night against Buffalo with Petruzzelli or Hildeby. Like, you're going to roll the dice and test it out again. So, like, those chances, they're going to happen throughout the season. You just hope the guy can kind of weather the storm. But, it wasn't even close last night.
No, it wasn't. And, listen, they came into the season with the expectation that Ilya Samsonov was their number one guy, right? Like, it was a scenario where he was going to start, like, 50 games if he played the way he played last year. And now we're not even in the new year, and it's a code red. Right? Like, they don't know how to handle this guy. And I think what it does is put into perspective the importance of the position and the irrelevant conversations that revolve around, other portions of this team. Not that they're not important, but go ask New Jersey how much it matters, how your power play is working or penalty kills working. If you can't get stops, it's irrelevant. Go talk to Edmonton about that. Go talk to Carolina. If you cannot get goaltending, you're screwed. You can't win in the game. You can't play the sport with goaltending the way that Samsonov is supplying it right now. So I feel for the guy. I really do, because he's pouring his heart out. He's honest. He's like, I'm in a really bad place. And it's confidence, which leads to technique, and then it's a mess. But this is what happens in pro sports. You play again tomorrow. Then you play on the 27th. Then you play, they're not going to stop playing to make sure that Ilya jumps back on the bandwagon here.
And in hindsight, the thing that would be best for him is to play with house money. For example, if Jones started last night and he gets lit up for 5 and they pull him, and then Samsonov goes in, there's no pressure, the game's over, and you just get a feel for the puck, and you start to get your game back in order at this level, and it's a no-pressure game. But, to your point, Brian, when we started the conversation, there's no layup games. Columbus technically should be a layup game tomorrow night, but as we know, the Leafs are a team that play up and down to their competition. And, Columbus is going to remember, regardless, they won that game, but, they I don't know if you saw that their goalie was trying to fight Tom Wilson last night. I don't know what the hell he was doing.
Especially that guy. What the hell are you thinking?
I was talking to the guys on the plane today. I'm like, they're like, yeah, did you see Merzlikins wanting to fight Tom Wilson? I'm like, you could have chosen 500 other players in the league. That guy will stuff you in a garbage can. Yeah. He's probably top 5 in the league.
But the goalie goes in there. It's weird because the goalies go in. What's Tom Wilson going to do to a goalie? He's probably shocked. He's like, this is a goalie coming at me. This is not a normal fight. This guy's got a mask on. He's got a blocker. I can't really drop this guy. But you know what? It'll be interesting now. Hayes, you kind of went through the list of teams there that are struggling and can't get a save. And there's not that many goaltenders really available for teams to go acquire. The prices on those guys, like Jake Allen, the price is going to be high now. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of teams that need an upgrade, and even if you think it's a marginal upgrade, I don't know, I feel like the price is going to go up on these guys that are maybe just giving you a little bit of an upgrade, not a significant one.
Well, I agree. That's why I don't think you can't panic now. Because of what's happening here. The Leafs have banked enough points. Joseph Woll will return at some point, but if you're relying on Joseph Woll, who's been great, but he's still a rookie that's very raw, that is injury prone, in Martin Jones, if you're adjusting to that point where you're like, we can't get Samsonov back, or it's going to take a while for him to get back, that's a very precarious position to be in, if that's what ends up being the case here.
You went from at the starting of the year, including myself, looking at it on paper, not knowing what I know right now at Christmas, going, Samsonov can be a 50-game starter, and I think Woll has a chance with the upside to be if it's a 1A, 1B, and Jones, you get him to the minors, that's a formidable 3-pack.
Yep.
That's how I felt. Now, things haven't unfolded the way we've wanted. Now, Martin Jones, he's played pretty well.
Yes,
I think he's done his, as a 3, he's done a great job, and he's going to be pressed into a little bit more action here, obviously. So we'll see how he handles it. He'll be able to handle it. He played 48 games last year, I believe, for Seattle and had 24 wins. He'll be fine. He's a good goaltender. He's a vet. Woll, I think we saw him starting to kind of develop and settle in. But if he's off for 6 or 8 weeks, that's
tough.
Jumping on a moving train after Christmas when the game tightens up. It's kind of a little bit more for keeps type of thing. I think he's talented enough to do it. But again, are you where is your mindset at? Because, I know we clearly know where Edmonton's mindset is at. We know where Carolina's mindset is at. Mm-hmm. Throughout the league, there's 5 or 6 teams that are good teams, but need an upgrade or at least some stability in net.
Exactly. They can't get up off the mat. And that, also the worst case scenario is the idea that Joseph Woll returns after missing 6 weeks, and it's being labeled as a savior. right? It's like, man, not only do you have to come back, like you got to really stand on your head here.
It kind of is, Hayes.
Well,
it is right now. All your eggs are in the Martin Jones basket, and you got to hope he plays. I don't know. Can he give you 9.08? Can he give you 9.10 for the next little while? Because like that's it. That's all. You got that, or you have an unknown as far as maybe they're going to give a kid in the minors a shot to play a few games here, like they did with Shelgren. Like, remember when Shelgren had to come up and he just had to be steady for a little while? It was like an 11-game stretch where you just give the team a chance to win. But this is, Joseph Woll's been out, a couple weeks now? Like, he's still got quite a ways to go. There's going to be a decent stretch here where you got one guy who's a gas can you cannot put in the net, and you really, really have a lot of hope that Martin Jones can just be a stabilizer and play good hockey, maybe even punch above his weight class a little bit.
Yeah, and I like the idea of calling up. There's this Hildeby kid that they like, obviously.
Yeah, he's a big kid,
but you can't rush him in. Like it's one thing.
He's not the savior.
No, he's not. And it's one thing if it's a one-off. Okay, you have to. There's an emergency. We're down 3 goalies. Someone's sick. You got to come up and play. Fine, but not you're coming up for a month and a half and you're going to play a bunch. You can't stag. It's not fair to him. It's completely unfair to him.
I agree.
So that's the scenario they're in right now.
They are, but it is. There are scenarios too. The team could play better in front of them. Like,
yes.
if you play a lot tighter defense, if you limit your chances, if you
now you can't even with that Noodles, those type of goals last night. That doesn't
that Greenway
matter.
one's still going in.
There's no way I can defend that.
You can't defend a few of those goals last night. The 95 Devils could be out there, and those are going in. Like,
well, you're like that was. Honest to God, like I watch. You guys know I watch a lot of hockey. I was
stunned.
I don't know. I was floored by the first goal. Like I was like, I don't know. Again, I having been in that situation and given up bad goals in my career, I just want to know in a candid moment, like, was he set? Like asking him, like, were you set? Were you like, what was your thought process during that play?
Why wouldn't he be set though? The play is coming towards you. How are you not set?
I don't know. A lot of times as a goaltender, you're trying to read the rush.
Right.
So sometimes you'll take a little peek to go, okay, is there an option for him to throw it wide? Is there something? But that looked to me like he wasn't paying attention, or he wasn't like he was like, I'm going to take a look to see if there's an option. And he'd shot it already because his reaction was, I don't even know what his reaction was. Like it was past him before he reacted, but it wasn't.
You know what it was like, Noodles? You ever been to the Hockey Hall of Fame and when you go in net and the guy's skating down towards you and you don't know which hole the rubber puck is going to come out of and you got to react to it? That's exactly what that was, and he had no idea where it was coming, and it went right past his glove.
Yeah, and I felt for him. Listen, even there was a screenshot goal from the point.
Well, the Dahlin goal was one that, it was, it's a CNI shot, but
it is. But if you watch him from behind, there's a behind the look behind the goaltender camera. He backs up, and he actually backs to his right. Like it's almost like he's lost the net.
Yeah.
Where he's trying to find, like, there was no fight to go, I need to find this puck. Where is it? Where is it? It was like, I'm going to put my hands up, do the scarecrow, and I'm going to back into the net, but I backed into the net crooked.
Yeah.
Like there was some technical stuff that I was watching last night that Curtis Sanford is a really good goalie coach. He's going to be able to work with him. But it starts with getting him right between the ears. And he's even admitted it. Like that's the scary part is when you've got an athlete going, I don't care about the technical stuff. I care about getting my head right. Mm-hmm. That concerns me.
Yeah, and that's why I think you got to be open and honest with the guy. He's got to be open and honest with them and figure out what's the best option here. Is it you're away from the team? Is it you're practicing with the team? Do you think you need games? If so, we'll waive you. No one's going to pick them up. You go to the Marlies. You're going to have to go down there, and you can play down there. You can Jack Campbell it for a bit.
Well, you can go down on conditioning.
Or
too.
conditioning.
You don't have to. The other thing, too, is do you guys remember – Jake Allen did that. St. Louis left Jake Allen home. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that?
That was Hitch,
when they went up to
years
Winnipeg.
Ago, yeah.
It was a couple years. It was the year I believe they won the Cup. I think they left Jake Allen home for a week, mm-hmm. and just let him work with the goaltender coach. There are resets. Yeah. Carey Price would go through these stretches where it's like, what's wrong with Carey Price? I'd be, chatting about it all the time. And, these guys need that reset physically and mentally. It's just, it's harder to do when there's a lot of pressure on you, and you're not playing very well. And to me, we've seen it. Jack Campbell's going through it right now, and he's wearing a baseball cap in the minors, my understanding. I think he got lifted last night, I believe.
He's not even bringing it in the minors.
It's unfortunate, but right now there is 5 or 6 teams in this league that are putting their hand up for stability in net. And to your point, Frankie, is who's the savior out there?
There's
you
no
mentioned
savior.
Jake Allen. Montreal's like Caden Primo. They're protecting him. I don't know if Caden Primo's an everyday NHLer yet. He's just a young kid.
They're still trying to figure that out, Noodles.
Exactly.
But
John
I've been banging the drum here for Samsonov, where you got to play through it. You have to find your game and play through it, and you need games. I've come to the conclusion that those games cannot be in an NHL net with 20,000 fans and the pressure that's involved there. It needs to be a different kind of environment. Still needs the games, still needs to play through it, but it has to be removed from the pressure cooker of what Toronto is and everything that's associated with that, because the guy's seeing demons in the net. That's, I don't know any other way to put it right now.
You know what? It's an Alec Manoah type vibe. Like, he needs the Florida Complex League. Send him down to Dunedin. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But it's eerily similar, where you've got a guy in a big position with a big profile, expected to do big things, and it's a complete mental block. He's got no confidence, and as a result, it's leading into just a gong show on the ice, quite frankly. And as for the rest of the team, again, I appreciated Matthews' comments after the game. I don't think I can't imagine it's accurate that was more embarrassing than like David Ayers or them losing a 3-1 lead to the Habs in the playoffs. But he was candid, and he didn't make excuses, and he didn't use the word lesson, which I really appreciate, because we've heard that so many times over the years. Well, it's a lesson. We'll learn from this. And, it's just one game, and we're not going to – he was blunt. He's like, we were horrible. And that was embarrassing. Like, that was really embarrassing. And Keefe kind of had a similar sentiment. He's like, we won't break it down, but we won't forget it. And I have an appreciation for that. I think fans do too. That's what you want. Like, you just own it.
Some honesty.
Yeah, own it. It is what it's one game. There's it's an 82-game season. You got skunked. But prior to that, you've been playing really well, racking up points. You get back on the saddle tomorrow night. But I do think tomorrow night is a big platform game for them, regardless of who they're playing against. But it might mean even more that they are playing against a team like Columbus, because they need to start being proactive. And they need, especially against bad teams, go in there with a growl on and go in there and spank that team tomorrow night. Like, go in there, play technically sound, be flying, lean on them. And Jones is going to get the start clearly. But it's a scenario where you're going into the Christmas break. This is a team that got you a week ago. You're coming off an embarrassment.
No excuse for it. It's
one
of those
must
things.
Win tomorrow night.
Well, Buffalo got blown out. They had a big performance against the Leafs. Colorado lost to Chicago. They had a big performance against Ottawa. Buffalo's obviously not the kind of team that Toronto and Colorado are, but those are the kind of responses you look for. And it's a great opportunity to do it.
You're a veteran team with high expectations. You have to bounce back tomorrow night.
It's a league with guys that have pride.
Yeah.
And you have to, you know what? You have an off night, you shake it off, and you move forward. But moving forward means you respond. That's basically what it is you got to respond like Buffalo did against the Leafs. The Leafs have to respond against Columbus after Buffalo beat them. That's what they need to do.
Yeah, and Timo and Willson they've got to respond.
They're in a dark spot. This group chat, man, I am like...
It's ugly, man, because these two guys, these are professional athletes that it's starting to dawn on them. Like, I'm going to have a real heart-to-heart chat with Luke when he comes on, because we joke around a lot, but he's got to be legitimately terrified that he's on the verge of the biggest collapse in sports history.
He's good, man. We were up in the boardroom last night. We
plus
were watching.
Two, though?
Yeah,
it's +2.
+2 now, man. And Al's brother and I are seeing the board. We are sponsored by Visine. These guys, it's foggy. It's really not a good place. They are the Ilya Samsonov of gamblers right now.
They need that nasal drip or whatever. What is it? What did you call it?
Navage or whatever.
They need that.
They need to clear the system out. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. All right. So Luke is coming up on the Rams with a big win last night. That was really impressive. Matthew Stafford looks great. The Rams look great. We got a bunch of big games this week, so we'll look ahead to the week, and we got a litany of picks. Al's brother will be in here. Luke Willson coming up. Frankie Corrado, Jamie Noodles, McLennan. I'm Bryan Hayes. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. OverDrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. I was walking in here about an hour and a half ago. I was over on the CTV side. Some guy pulled me aside, said, "Hey, man, do me a favor. Throw these guys a bone. Like, lose a game, please, because I'm starting to get worried about Luke. He's pacing the halls at night. He's freaking people out." Luke Willson joining us, Al's brother in studio, my Partsy. Hi, Partsy. How are you? Good to see you. You might want to turn your mic on there.
I do.
All right, we're all good. Luke, you're actually like people are getting concerned about you. You're walking the halls at night. You're freaking people out. And be honest, this is a heart-to-heart. I'll give you an opportunity. You have the floor. Are you getting nervous here that your reputation is at stake? Because you could be on the verge of the biggest choke job in pro sports history.
Well, let's first, the original allegations of me walking the hallways. There is some truth to that. Last night, it was blistering cold in Scarborough, Ontario. Mm-hmm. So when I go from studio to studio, I decided to try and take the tunnel, which I got lost a little bit. So I was pacing. Frankie can vouch for this. Me and Frankie were watching the game.
We were talking about
TSN understands.
Well, okay. Luke just found out that Gino Retta has drawn arrows.
The black arrows.
So you know which way to go. Luke just found out about that.
Okay.
So that could be a true story. I was wandering for quite some time yesterday trying to figure out the maze between studios. But it was not due to this situation. But if I'm being very honest, I am wildly nervous about this weekend. I am wildly nervous about it. I am not coming in Saturday, not because of this, just for whatever reason. I think the holidays, and I will be glued to the TV praying that these spreads are covered in my favor.
Go win Willson.
Yeah, I do take umbrage with the idea that you've dragged Rod Smith into this.
Yes.
Like, I feel a bit bad, don't you, Al's brother?
Well, it's terrible because now you got Bot Army going after Rod Smith. He doesn't deserve that.
I know.
I do have one question.
Actually, I didn't drag Rod into this. In fact, I would rather be just solo dolo picking, but I actually just got a text from O-Dog himself that started the statement with "Rod wants." So there's a little we got some issues today. I'll explain when we get to the picks.
Okay. Noodles, what do you got for us?
I have a concern because I saw online yesterday a statement from Rod Smith. Like, it was like, you're dragging him into it. This guy is literally Mr. TSN, a legend. And now you've basically pulled him in. If this was like a mud wrestling pit, you've dragged him into the pit. And I don't know how you're going to get him out. Like, that's what I'm concerned about. This guy's above all of our nonsense.
Oh, way above.
And now we're dragging him in.
And on the side that's choking Noodles. Like, not only that, he's on the side that is about to puke away one of the biggest leads in sports history. And, like, everyone's buzzing about it. Al's brother was in Russia yesterday. And I'm sure a lot of people are buzzing about that.
Lots of people. There are but two things. One, there's a lot of people that are worried about their friend Ilya Samsonov.
Yes, that's
lots of people worried about that.
Yeah.
And lots of people talking about what's going on with Hayes and Bro.
Yes.
And they haven't seen anything like this since the Super Bowl when it was 28-3. Mm-hmm. We're marching. We're charging. We're inside the red zone. And this bad boy's about to get tied up this weekend.
I am
so stoked.
I feel great about where we're at. We've got an 8-pack of games last night. I mean, I saw you on with Jay. Luke, I mean, the Rams are just doing what they do, man. Like, they look really good. You got to give them credit. And I think Jay asked you last night, like, do you think they're definitively the fourth best team in the NFC? They sure seem to be playing that way.
I would actually put them, like, to me, I don't have an exact ranking, but I would put San Francisco 1, and then I've got Dallas, Philadelphia, and Detroit and the Rams all kind of as, 2, 3, 4. That's my, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's kind of my echelon of how this thing works. You look at it right now, I think that every other team outside of San Francisco has some glaring weaknesses. The Cowboys got a chance to maybe silence some critics this weekend. We'll see how Team Hayes and Bot feels about that. But the Rams, when Matthew Stafford is playing this way, they're going to be a tough matchup for anyone in the playoffs. And especially in that first round. Again, let's take the Niners out of it right now because I do think that they'll get the bye. Another layup that you guys will definitely take the favorite on, but we'll get to that later. And now all of a sudden, it's like, if you're the Lions, do you want to see Matthew Stafford at home? The way he's throwing the football, the way your pass defense is? I don't think so. Kyron Williams looks incredible. He's got a run game, and the defense makes enough plays. They're definitely not an elite unit at this point, but they're also not awful. So now all of a sudden, you've got a guy in Matthew Stafford that can go through his progressions. Last night, he's running around throwing sidearm throws. The accuracy is there. He looks healthy. And you have a very, very, what seems like elite runner in Kyron Williams. I mean, it would not surprise me if this team won one, maybe two playoff games, or at least we're in some very, very good battles. It's been pretty fun to watch.
I'm with you on that. All right, let's get to the picks here because we have an 8-pack. This is effectively the season's on the line here, right? Like, this is a massive make-or-break weekend for both teams. And
there's just one thing people want to know, Hayes. One thing. And I know you guys have the bots. I think Reddit is buzzing about this one question for Hayes and Bro. Will you guys have the stones to take a dog?
Well, you'll find out. I mean, what
they will. They will. I'm gonna, Frankie. You got to understand that these guys are amateurs. So let me explain to you. They will take the Vegas Raiders. Outside of that, it will all be favorites. I know who they're going to pick because they think like dummies. You know, it's like, hey, everyone thinks this, so I'm going to think this.
Dummies.
Yeah. It's just unfortunate.
We've hit 7 in a row. We've hit 7 in a row, Luke.
They've had absolute layups from Doogie. And this week, they have another 4 layups. They will go undefeated this week. The only thing is what Rod wants going to keep us also undefeated. I'm not sure. We'll talk about that in a sec.
All right, let's get to it then. Here we go. If we're concerned with the opinions of people on Reddit, I mean, that's something that Owen Willson occupies their time with.
Built-in excuses.
We don't. As we said yesterday, Lions do not concern themselves with the opinions of sheep. All right, Saturday, let's kickstart the party here. Bengals laying 2.5 at Pitt. The Bengals are favored 2.5 at Pitt. Owen Willson, you're on the clock.
Yeah, Rod wants Cincinnati. And to be honest with you, I do like that pick. I understand Jamar Chase is out. But again, we got to go down to football fundamentals here. The idea that we're going to, ride with Mitchell Trubisky to cover the spread or potentially win. The Steelers, I think, are a very broken locker room at this point. You've seen Deontay Johnson. You've seen George Pickens. I've been in toxic locker rooms. They usually don't just fix in 1 week. And the Bengals got to win this game in order to, keep the playoff hopes alive, in my opinion. So I think Jake Browning has a better day than what he had against the Vikings. Again, we talked about this on the show last week. The Vikings bring a ton of blitzes for a young quarterback that can be tough. I think right now Browning will be able to move the ball around a little bit. I also think that the combination of Mixon and London's very own Chase Brown has looked really good in the backfield. It's a divisional game. It'll be tight. But I do think they win by a field goal because Trubisky, Mason Rudolph has got at least one pick in there, which will probably be the difference in this game. But expect this one to be, I think, close.
Okay, so you're on the Bengals, taking a favorite, gutless, but that's fine. We'll take Tomlin, the Steelers at home against a divisional rival. We like being on the dogs.
Yeah, I do like being on the dogs.
Dogs are barking.
They're barking, especially in this game. And I'll tell you one thing, Luke, and here's where you look at it. And I think that it's actually a good thing for the Steelers that they've made the decision to go off of Trubisky and go to Mason Rudolph. There's not much tape on this guy, right? So I think that there's going to be an opportunity for them to scheme up a couple of things, and it'll take them maybe a half to figure it out, and perhaps the Steelers can move the ball a little bit here and keep this close. They might win this game, honestly.
Right.
The Jake Browning bubble could burst.
What did you just
say?
It
could burst. It could burst.
If we could rewind what you just said, there was no coherent thought in there. I'm not sure what you just said. It was just like, let me tell you something. Well, Mason Rudolph, Trubisky, it might take a half. Like, what football are you talking about?
All he had to say is it'll be -1 after that game.
Exactly.
Right, Al's brother? And then this is where we tie it tomorrow night, right? This time tomorrow night, we're going into a game.
Yes.
Wow. Go ahead. No, let's get to these picks because we
got a question
have
about the second game here. And
what
we
is
all
the
know
question?
who you're going to pick. And I would pick the same thing.
All right.
What line would you not pick the Bills in this game at? To me, I find it very strange. And it's almost one of those points where I have hope that you guys might lose because it's so strange that it's not 18.5.
Well, I mean, 18.5
Vegas
is
knows
just
something I don't know.
I think it's what they're banking on. We'll allow you to get to the tremendous information, but new coach bump, if that means anything. Long week, they're at home. It is the Bills, self-inflicted wounds. But it's our pick, so go ahead, Al's brother. The Bills laying 12.5 in LA against the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, we are going to take the Buffalo Bills.
Yes, of course we are.
We got to take the Buffalo Bills here.
I can't fault you for that.
Well, they're the much better
to.
team. And I think to answer your question, if it did creep up into that 18-point range, that might be where we'd have to make a consideration for the dog here. But you're looking at the Buffalo Bills, what they do is they absolutely crush and beat up on the bad football teams. In the 9 wins that they in the wins that they have this year, that they have won by a margin of 18.5 points.
Right. They crush when they win.
Absolutely. That's what they do. That's what this team does. And I look at this Chargers team. They were terrible last week. Will they be a little bit better? Perhaps. But I still think the season's over for that squad. No Keenan Allen, no Herbert. What's Easton Stick going to do against his team? Dak Prescott couldn't do anything.
PG, I agree. Tremendous information.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting this line is in 17.5. I can't fathom that, and I can't fathom that I now have to pick later on, which we'll get to, a game where somehow the Eagles have a bigger spread against the Giants than the Bills versus the Chargers. How on earth? It's insanity.
We'll get to that. But first, you got to bet Lions, Vikings, Timo and Wilson, the Lions, the ghost of Matt Patricia hanging around Detroit, Michigan. And this is Lions at the Vikings. Lions laying 3, Owen Wilson on the clock.
Rod wants Detroit. Rod wants Detroit, and
Rod.
To be honest with you, I agree with him. I agree with him.
That pick.
I do like it. I think that Detroit's got a spot here to win this division. Last week we talked about the Vikings and I like the matchup against the Bengals. Obviously, Nick Mullins puked, and I think Nick Mullins is the weak spot at this moment. Now, could Nick Mullins get out here and make a few throws? For sure. But that being said, Jared Goff looked like he was back on pace. It's an indoor game, which I actually think the Lions like because they kind of have a very balanced offense, even though, in my opinion, they should really trend towards more running the football. And the offensive line, I believe, is healthy and supposed to be playing. So I think that, again, divisional game, I think will be tough. But the fact that it's 3 points, the Lions have more talent in this team. You're on a team with Nick Mullins. If the Lions want to be serious, they need to go into Minnesota, which is a very, very short flight. Yes, it's going to be loud, but they need to take care of business and win by 6. And then all of a sudden, there'll be less sweat for me for the weekend.
All right, you guys are on the Lions laying 3. Al's brother, possibly the game of the weekend. Dallas at Miami. Miami laying 1.5 at home. Tremendous information, please.
The dogs are barking. The dogs are barking. The wolf pack rolling with the dogs in
We're
this
on the
one.
Cowboys.
We do like the Cowboys. I definitely like. Look,
Yes, the season's been won.
I don't understand this. I don't understand what you're celebrating.
No, we love Dallas.
Fellas, I've been saying this for years. The Finns are frauds. Absolutely fraudulent. Do you know what their record is in their last 7 games against teams with winning records?
0-7, I would assume.
0-7. Luke, this team is 0-7 against good teams, against teams with winning records. They're going to come out of the blue here today? No. I don't think so.
No, and not to mention, Dallas just got embarrassed, and I think they're a better team. I think they're a real team. I think they got bullied by Buffalo. Miami doesn't bully people. It's South Florida. That'll be half the building will be Dallas, Cowboy fans. Yeah. It'll be a home game, warmth. Outside, Dallas just got embarrassed. They're breaking narratives. They're breaking chains. The breaker of chains, Hayes and Bro. We're on the Cowboys laying the points.
Yes, we are.
We love it. We
Frankie
love it.
Noodles, give me the salute on that one.
Hey, congrats on that win, Luke. Congrats on that one. Hey, there's a freebie right in your lap, buddy.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is where we swing right back.
I'll tell you this.
Yeah, go ahead,
I'll tell you this right now. You look at the Miami Dolphins. When do they win games? When they can run the football. What just happened last week? Are you kidding me? And it was you 1 week ago, Hayes, that said this is not the same team on the road. The Miami Dolphins get it done. They defeat this narrative. They can't beat good teams. They'll probably run for 150, throw for another 275. Good night. The season just ended, baby. Let's go.
Narratives are broken. Dallas rolls in Miami. They roll in Miami. All right. New England at Denver. What a game on Sunday night. Denver laying 6.5. This is where things swing. This is where I think we take the lead. If I recall correctly, I went to that psychic. Lady, Mrs. Rudolph was her name. She said, New England, Denver, this is where they puke and we blow past them. Go ahead. Who do you like and why?
Yeah, well, guess what? Bailey Zappi and the New England Patriots about to cover this bad boy. Easy. Wow. Let's go. Let's go.
And
I can see it on your face right now. You're hurt. Here we go. Let me explain. Once again, you got to look at matchups. You can't just go on Twitter like the bot farm and be like, I think Denver's going to win. You got to look at matchups. Okay? What has Bill Belichick done offensively all year? Run the football, run the football, run the football. This guy's trying to take football back to the 1940s. That's what he wants to do. And if there's a defense you can do it against, it's this Denver Broncos defense. They absolutely stink against the run. You saw that last week. Even Al's bot tried to cherry pick some weird stat to try and convince me to take them last week. Obviously, that didn't work. On the flip side, what does Denver want to do? Sean Payton, no trust in Russell Wilson. You saw him scream at the sideline. If it was up to Sean Payton, he would run the football every single play of this game. Well, the good news for him is the game's going to be so tight that he's going to have that ability to do that. Oh, New England, the best run defense in the NFL. The best run defense in the NFL. Why did they get burned last week? Because Patrick Mahomes made some miraculous scrambles. Russ ain't scrambling like that. They're not throwing the football. I expect this bad boy to be 7-6. This spread's getting covered. We're on the Pats.
No, I love Denver big. I love Sean Payton is going to dance circles around Bill Belichick. That team has absolutely quit on Bill. They know he's done. He's finished. You might see Nathan Rourke in this game. And if that's the case, it's probably 41-7 at that point.
Once again, you guys got to understand that even if you have quit on Bill Belichick, even if you can quit on Bill, you want to. You can, we quit on Bill Belichick. Trust me when I say you don't want to be the guy who messes up in the game on the Monday meeting in a Bill Belichick locker room. I was pretty much in one. So even if you hate the man, you're still going to play hard because you don't want to be absolutely embarrassed in front of all your buddies on Monday. It's a fear-mongering situation. That's how he runs it.
Okay, we're going to come back with the 3-pack on Monday. All right, it's got to be rapid fire, but it's the 3 biggest games of the year. I think we wake up Christmas morning, Hayes and Bro probably in the lead, if not within striking distance. Christmas Miracle, the picks are next. All right, the Christmas Miracle, it's happening. I mean, everyone understands that this is what it's been moving towards for a long time, right? Hayes and Bro, look at the picture up there with Luke, Tyreek Hill. Tyreek is, I believe, recently married, among other things going on in his personal life, allegedly, and we wish nothing but success for Tyreek. We think he's going to be on the field. We don't know for sure.
Yeah, and if he is bum ankle, that O-line's banged up too.
In Miami.
Going up against that Dallas D-line, that front, good luck.
I think it's a Mike McCarthy statement game and a Dak Prescott statement game. I think the Cowboys know they need one. All right, Monday games, Christmas games, Vegas at Kansas City laying 10 points. It's a big spread house, brother.
Yeah.
We're on the clock. Tremendous information.
What's the gut instinct tell you?
Gut instinct says Kansas City big.
Kansas City big. It's got to be big, right? It's got to be big.
They're going to cover 10. Explain to me why it would be Kansas City big.
Well, I think that this is – I'm with you. I think Kansas City's going to roll. Like Vegas last week, they put up 62 points, whatever it was. But that's never going to happen again.
Never again.
Never going to happen again. And you look at the injury report, Max Crosby didn't practice this week. Yeah. You've got Josh Jacobs as a DNP this week. So if those two are out, that's big, man. Isaiah Pacheco is returning to the game.
I love it.
They get the run game going. You get that run game. That means that Kadarius Toney can't make as many mistakes. Okay, and look, this is a KC team where if you take 4 or 5 drops or bad plays or a toe, like you like to always talk, Luke, this team's way better, and it's a way different outlook. Mm-hmm. They got to clean things up before the playoffs. I think it starts here, divisional game. They know this opponent. They beat them up 2 weeks ago. I think they do it again.
Okay, there we go. We're on it. We love Kansas City laying 10, and we got to get going here. So, Luke, you can make a quick comment, but then
I just want to say thank you, guys. I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome. We'll see.
That's all.
Christmas Miracle, 13.5. Philly laying 13.5 at home against the Giants. Who you taking?
Yeah, Rod wants New York. Rod wants New York.
Oh,
and
wow.
Danny DeVito.
You know, I have to say, I don't mind it. I see this as a backdoor cover all day. Reason being, you saw it on the end of the game there. I could see Philly getting up 20. Even 18. And Matt Patricia, he can't help himself. Mm-hmm. I saw it firsthand. You saw it, Drew Lock, 92 yards. What does he do that whole drive that no one's talking about? He plays man coverage. Like, why would you do that? Why would you play DK Metcalf in man coverage? Why would you play JSN 25 yards out in man coverage? Why would you do that? Especially when you don't have the people to play man coverage. Matt Patricia clearly can't help himself. Tommy DeVito, Bam Bam. The defense isn't that bad. Jalen Hurts is in an absolute shambles right now. Again, looking for a backdoor cover on this. But again, once again, guys, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I thought I was going to have to come out here, be 4-0, and really go and grind this thing out the next 2 weeks. But you guys have basically gifted me some wins. So thank you. Because now I'm going to sleep well tonight. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome. And I know what you're doing here. When you puke this away, now it's Rod's fault. That's what happens. That's what happens. Hey. That's O's MO. It's never his fault.
Listen. I love Rod. I don't want him to pick. This is some O-Dog.
Everything's Rod says. Rod says.
I don't even want him as the football operations guy.
Rod's like a bulletproof vest now for these two. It's gutless.
I'm going to say one thing.
They found a patsy. They found a scapegoat.
It's a patsy. Exactly. It's Rod's fault.
The only thing I'm going to say is I love being on a committed Jalen Hurts this week.
I agree with you, Alice, brother. All right, let's wrap up the Christmas miracle with probably the game of the season, or slated to be. San Francisco at home laying 5.5 against Baltimore.
Yeah, there's a reason why this number is 5.5. Some people think that it's a little too high, which would scare people into thinking Baltimore, but that's what the Stooges would do. Right. We are sharps. We are smart. We're going to lay the points with San Francisco. I think they look at Baltimore. They've given up a lot of yardage, and they're a bend-don't-break offense or defense. The problem when you're going up against the San Francisco 49ers is they can finish. Unlike those Jaguars last week, once they get into the red zone, they're finishing on 68% of their drives. They're going to put up points, and I think they're going to win this one, and they're going to win big and say, hey, Brock Purdy MVP, and we are the Super Bowl
I agree.
favorites.
I think Brock Purdy wraps it up this week. They beat Philly big. They beat Dallas big. Now I think they beat Baltimore big. Fred Warner spying Lamar all night. TG, I love it. And we're on the Niners. We're laying 5.5. So to recap, the biggest week of the year, Owen Willson is on Cincinnati, the Lions, New England, and the Giants. Hayes and Bro are on Buffalo, Dallas, Kansas City, and the Niners. Al's brother, all the best, my friend.
Oh, yeah.
We will be chatting. Luke, good luck, buddy. You're going to need it.
One
and
real
when in
quick
doubt,
one,
just
boys.
blame Ron.
Again, the narrative has just changed. You guys had a shot to win this whole thing, and you want to talk about the biggest choke job in the history of sports. We just witnessed it with awful picks, awful information.
Right.
You guys have gifted us dubs. I appreciate it.
Wow, we're not going to blame Jennifer Hedger for that like you guys are. I mean, it's on us.
Yeah, I think Julian Edelman just made an amazing catch right about now, and we're driving.
With you, Alice, brother. We're chugging right now. All right, Luke, we'll see you later, buddy. Thank you for this. Luke Willson. Hour 2 coming up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.